let's check out which of these color ink eReaders is the best. We'll compare the Boox Go Color 7, Kobo Libra Color and Clara Color, Pocketbook InkPad Color 3 and Era Color, and the Bigme B751C. And let's just come to the upfront conclusion to give you a quick answer and to not waste anyone's time. The Pocketbook InkPad Color 3 is the best all-rounder when it comes to color saturation, feature set, battery life, and ease of use. It combines many useful functions with the most vibrant colors compared to the rest. So if you don't need Android or handwritten annotations, this is the best color ink eReader right now in my opinion. Very closely followed by the Boox Go Color 7, which has even more features, the slightly better front light, but isn't exactly as easy to use and also doesn't have the same vibrant colors as the InkPad. Android is definitely the most important selling point here and gives you much more options compared to Pocketbook. But to reduce ghosting in apps, you need to invest a bit of time and tinker with the settings. The Bigme B751C also has Android, but isn't as refined as the Boox eReader, or any of the others for that matter. It also has the dimmest front light, which might be an issue for some. However, where it leads this comparison is ghosting behavior. If you're looking for the best ghosting behavior, the Bigme eReader takes the lead. The added pen support is also a plus. The Kobo Libra Color is the best choice if you're doing a lot of annotations. Those work great with and without the pen. And the notebooks are awesome additions. Even though the pen latency isn't as low as with dedicated noting tablets, it's still nice to have them. The UI is also clean and easy to use. What's not great is PDF and comics handling here. So if that's your main application, pick one of the others. And I'd only recommend going for the Kobo Clara Color or PocketBook Era Color if you're looking for a more compact or cheaper eReader. Otherwise, go for the other two models of those companies. Like and subscribe if that was helpful, and if you appreciate the upfront summary, and keep watching for a more detailed side-by-side comparison. So let's jump right in with the screen comparison and first see how differently they handle color rendition, because there is quite a bit to unpack here. All of these color eReaders use EInk Kaleido 3 technology. That's the best you can get at the time of recording this video. All of them have a 300 ppi black and white resolution and a 150 ppi color resolution. I match the Frontlights brightness levels as closely as possible, with the exception of the Bigme B751C, all are set to around 40 nits brightness, because the Bigme eReader just doesn't get as bright with the cold white LEDs as the others. Side by side, we can immediately tell that the Pocketbook InkPad Color 3 is more vibrant than the smaller devices. With tweaking settings a bit, you can get closer to the color saturation of the InkPad with the smaller devices as well, but still not quite. So if you're after the color ink eReader with the most vibrant colors, the InkPad Color 3 is the best choice right now. In terms of color fidelity, the Boox Go Color 7 manages to come out on top, especially because it doesn't crush some details in images as much as it's the case on the more saturated Pocketbook devices. Out of the box, both Kobo Color eReaders have the least vibrant colors, but the best contrast levels. What's important to know here is that a big part of color rendition comes down to software. And for some reason, Kobo chose to go with more desaturated color settings, which I'm not sure if this was the right call to make. Luckily, you can change the color mode in the developer settings, which you have to enable first, and then switch to one of the S modes, and that immediately boosts color saturation to a level more in line with the others. That definitely comes at the price of color accuracy, but that's not the best to begin with any of those. So that's a trade I'm willing to make, and I would recommend anyone getting or already owning a Kobo Color eReader to check out those settings to see if you like them better as well. So let's flip through a couple of more pages to give you a bit more context. If you're asking yourself now, which one of these is the best e-reader without using the Frontlight, I have to disappoint, because I'd recommend none of them if you don't want to use the Frontlight. Because of the way Kaleido screens work, all of those e-readers have pretty dark displays when not turning up the Frontlight, which makes reading not really comfortable. Check out my Is Color Ink Worth It video if you haven't seen it already to get a few more insights on that, which brings us to the Frontlight, which is also a big part of how colors and the screen in general is perceived on these e-readers. In terms of brightness levels, Kobo easily takes the lead with the brightest Frontlights at around 120 nits with the cold white LEDs. Personally, I'm not using ink devices with the brightness set to such high levels, but there is no denying that this enhances contrast and readability further on both. Kobo is followed by the Boox Go Color 7 at around 68 nits maximum brightness, the PocketBook Era Color at around 63 nits, and the PocketBook InkPad Color 3 at around 58 nits. All three of those are totally fine and easily bright enough for everyday use. The Bigme B751C has the dimmest Frontlight by far when not mixing color temperature with only 28 nits. When dialing up the warm white LEDs, you can improve that brightness levels, but at the cost of color fidelity. Personally, I find the Frontlight on the Bigme eReader a bit too dim to comfortably use it, but that definitely depends on your personal preference. The color temperatures on here are very different from one another, but all offer color temperature adjustments, allowing for a bit more refinement by mixing the LEDs. But generally, the Kobo devices and the Bigme B751C are more on the warmer side, while Pocketbook and Boox have a cooler color temperature, which I think provides a better starting point to find that sweet spot for mixing the LEDs. For comics, the Frontlight doesn't have to be especially even, because with colored content, irregularities just aren't as obvious. So if your main application is comics, all of them are totally fine. If you intend to read pure text ebooks as well, that's another story. For that, you'd want to get the most even Frontlight that you can. Here, the Boox Go Color 7 has the least variances, followed by the PocketBook InkPad Color 3, which has slightly visible halos at the bottom of the screen, but otherwise is also very even. The Bigme B751C is also even, but again with only around 30 nits brightness, irregularities are generally less obvious. Kobo Libra Color, Clara Color and the PocketBook Era Color are a bit worse, but still good enough to not cause major issues for most people. So in short, you can't really go wrong with any of them when it comes to the Frontlight uniformity. But if you're sensitive to that, go for the Boox Go Color 7 or PocketBook InkPad Color 3. Ghosting is essentially an issue with all Kaleido 3 screens when it comes to image-rich content, but Boox and Bigme have found ways around that. With Boox, it's the Boox Super Refresh technology, which draws more energy but allows for faster screen refreshes and less ghosting. But that's not available in the Go Color 7, so to reduce ghosting on here, you need to tinker with the settings. Once that's done, ghosting is not a huge deal anymore with static content. With Pocketbook and Kobo, I'd say it's still a bit more noticeable than on an optimized Boox Go Color 7. The Bigme B751C, on the other hand, has hands down the best ghosting behavior of all of these. Still not perfect, but with the different ink viewing options, you can reduce ghosting more than on the other devices. In terms of software, these are all very different experiences. I'd say the Kobo eReaders have the easiest to use interface out of these four companies here. It's clean, well organized, and doesn't take a lot of time getting used to. The Pocketbook models are also very well organized and offer a couple of useful customization options, have the best library, but aren't as responsive as the others. So I'd say that's the only downside, even though I also wouldn't say they are annoyingly slow, just a bit slower in comparison. The Boox Go Color 7 offers a well-optimized Android user interface for the ink screen, which isn't always perfect, but because you get a lot more options compared to Kobo and Pocketbook, it's not as intuitive and easy to use as those. So it definitely needs a bit more time getting used to that one. The Bigme B751C is essentially the hardest to recommend in terms of the user interface. It just isn't as refined as the rest. And you can tell right from the start that the others seem to have put more time and effort into optimizations. When it comes to comics and PDF functions, the Boox Go Color 7 easily wins the comparison with its different viewing options. Those work better than on any of the others. But for comics, I typically only use the fit to width option, which zooms in on a page to fit the width of the screen. That's essentially the most comfortable viewing mode on this screen size for me personally. So you just jump from segment to segment with a tap on the screen or push of the page turn button. The Pocketbook eReaders don't have as many viewing options, but the most important ones are here as well. Same as on the Boox eReader, I just use the fit to width option, which works essentially the same. So the EInk Color 3 and Era Color also offer great viewing experience for comics. Kobo and Bigme both aren't great when it comes to comics and PDFs. Both lack the same intuitive and easy to use viewing modes as the others, but at the very least, with Bigme you can use Android apps to overcome those shortcomings. On both Kobo devices, you need to settle for the missing feature set, at least for now. I suspect Kobo will offer improvements over time with software updates, but right now the others are the better choice for comics. On the other hand, when it comes to reading and annotating pure text ebooks, Kobo offers the best experience. Not only do the Kobo Libra Color and Clara Color have great extensive text styling options, but annotations with color coding work incredibly well without having to fiddle around with the cursors to accurately select the text on the page. And the Kobo Libra Color also has pen support, with the option to easily switch between an ebook and a notebook. So that's super useful. The dictionary function and the library are also well executed, making for a great user experience overall. Only the web browser is something you shouldn't rely on, and is essentially the worst in that comparison. But buying ebooks works directly via the well-integrated store. Pocketbook also offers color-coded annotations, and you can even use your fingers to highlight something in a book. But note-taking is a bit fiddlier because selecting text isn't as precise as on the Kobo models. Also, there is no pen support. Text styling options are also less extensive, but there are more dictionaries available, and the library is the best you can get right now in the e-ink space, offering the best sorting and filtering options with the ability to use a folder structure or Libra tags to sort your ebooks. Pocketbook is also more open than Kobo, which means you can listen to side-loaded content easier, and there's also a built-in speaker to listen to music and audiobooks directly. There's also a nice text-to-speech option available. And last but not least, the web browser also works much better than on Kobo. So you can also use it to buy ebooks in another store except Amazon. But the integrated store is also well done and easy to use. The Boox Go Color 7 offers even more features than Pocketbook, but those aren't always as refined and easy to use. There are only 3 pre-installed local dictionaries. Otherwise, it's using online services for that function. Note-taking also has color coding, but right now the text selection is a bit buggy, with the device selecting all text on a page when it's not supposed to. But I suspect that will be fixed soon, as it's a problem I don't have with other Boox devices. There's also a built-in speaker to listen to audiobooks and use the text-to-speech function directly, which is even better than on Pocketbook. But all of those mentioned features are just a bit more complicated to use, and some aren't as refined. Thanks to Android, the web browser is even better than on Pocketbook and is even suitable to listen to podcasts, for example. But I'd recommend just using an app for that. You will also need to use an app or the browser for getting your ebooks, because the integrated store is only a collection of public domain books and doesn't offer contemporary literature. The Bigme B751C is somewhat similar. It offers a lot of options, but I have to say that's actually a drawback here, because it looks like Bigme tried to implement as many options as possible without first optimizing the existing ones. I'd really like to see less but more refined options in the future. But as a more positive side note, the Bigme B751C also has pen support for note-taking, which is definitely a nice addition. In terms of battery life, I tested each device with a page turn interval of 15 seconds and a full page refresh every 5 pages, with the front light set to around 40 nits brightness where possible. In that test, the Pocketbook InkPad Color 3 drew the least amount of energy with only around 3.4% per hour, which equates to a runtime of roughly 29 hours. Followed by the Kobo Clara Color with 27 hours, the Boox Go Color 7 with 21 hours, the Kobo Libra Color with 20 hours, the PocketBook Era Color with 17 hours, and the Bigme B751C with 13 hours. Just keep in mind that battery life can vary a lot depending on what you do. Viewing comics, using the browser, setting the front light to brighter levels, listening to audiobooks, and if possible, taking notes with the pen or using Android apps will all reduce battery life. But at the very least, these numbers give us a good estimate of which device we can expect longer runtimes from. So that's it. You got the upfront summary in the beginning, and as you can see, there is not the best color e-reader, but you should make the choice based on your use case. For me personally, it's a choice between the Pocketbook InkPad Color 3 and the Boox Go Color 7. The InkPad is the better choice as an easy-to-use all-rounder with longer battery life and more vibrant colors. The Go Color 7 is the more advanced device with Android expandability, but the steeper learning curve. To learn more, check out both my in-depth reviews. Please like and subscribe if you found this video helpful, and to not miss future reviews and comparisons. Thanks for your time watching, and see you in the next one.